What do you mean you want to be in a magazine, Rhea? You're like a 5'2" little brown girl. My individuality is my power. Point in life is to live your truth. I needed to prove myself. I never thought I was beautiful. I lost my mom's mom, who I'm very close to. And she's the kind of person that I kind of was my benchmark of what a lady is. It was at that time where I was like, I need to heal.
Rhea Jacobs. You've seen her face on huge global campaigns like Marie Claire, Harper's Bazaar, Vogue, Marc Jacobs, and many, many more. You've heard her voice on TEDx stage, but behind the visuals and the accolades is a woman who built herself not from perfection, but from presence. And that's why I want to have you on this podcast today. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm so happy to be here.
Nobody really talks about how hard it is to build something from a self that was never really safe to exist. I want to know when it was that shift where you felt like you're having that progress into who you are now sitting in front of me.
I think as a child, I had two different types of experiences. At home, I was the kid that if I went to my parents and I was like, oh, I want to be the president, they'd be like, of course, now it's time to practice your speeches. We need to get you an outfit. That's the kind of energy I had at home, especially with my mom. And my dad is the kind of person, he is a realist, but at the same time, if I had a dream, he would never say no. So that was the kind of environment. And then the minute I would step outside, the world would say something else. Like, what do you mean you want to do this? What do you mean you want to be in a magazine, Rhea? You're like a 5'2" little brown girl. And I guess that really plays with your mind, because I think as a child, at least for me, I used to keep saying this to my mom, like, you're biologically programmed to love me. You're biologically programmed to believe every dream. So maybe they're right, because as a kid, when things get thrown at you, you absorb everything like a sponge, and you believe it as the truth. I think that's where my mom comes in. It wasn't a moment, it was a series of moments where she, as a dreamer, first of all, I feel if you are a person who's very realistic, it's essential to have dreamers around you. Because then when you start to question, and then when you say, oh, it's not possible, someone like a dreamer, they will come in and be like, but why? Yeah. I mean, mind you, I didn't look like this at 16. I didn't look like this at 15. So I'd be like, oh, mom, like, I was like this really big kid, like a chubby kid. And I used to be like, I want to be on Vogue. She'd be like, of course. Of course, Vogue would love to have you. So I think that delusion really helped me change my mindset. I remember this one day that changed my life in a huge way. Audrey Hepburn is a huge beauty icon of mine. And I was the kind of kid, I loved to fit in. So if my friends were into football, I'd be like, I love football. I hate football. I hate it, but
me too.
Right?
I'm right there with you.
I mean, I like to watch it. No, I don't. But like I'll be like, oh, he's cute. That's my football. But
that's the only reason we watch football.
Exactly. and then like my friends would be like, oh, Rhea, let's go play football. I'd be like, yeah, of course. I hated it, but I would love to, So I always wanted to experiment with makeup. I always wanted to experiment with hairstyles. And then my friends would be like, oh my God, you're wearing makeup. Oh my God, you're doing this. You can't blame them because that's what they liked. But I didn't understand that it's okay to like what I liked. There was this one movie of Audrey Hepburn. I can't remember the name. There's this scene. She walks in and she has a beautiful gown. And I think the story is like she goes away to some place and then she comes back and she's this beautiful lady and confident and she looks so different to everyone there. And I turned to my mom and I was like, Mom, isn't she afraid to, be so different? And she's like, Rhea, when you look in the room, who do you see? I was like, her. And she's like, what's your question again? And I was like,
that.
Oh my God, yes. So that moments like this really changed my mindset, where I realized my individuality is my power. And fitting in is fine, but it's not going to get you anywhere. Like, your whole point in life is to live your truth, to live who you are, like who you want to be as a person, not what the world wants you to be.
And so which part of your identity the most do you think they kind of took away when maybe they had all the best intentions, but what do you think, which part of did you lose the most when you were surrounded by self-doubt, and how did you reclaim that?
I think my worth, I really felt like I needed to be chosen. I needed to prove myself. I think in a huge way, my career in media is very much that, because I think it's almost me living my inner child's dream, trying to show her that if it was possible in a huge way. So I do think it's my self-worth. It's the way I looked at myself. I never thought I was beautiful. So there were times where I was on set and they would say, "Oh, you look beautiful," and I'd be like, "Okay, sure." Like in my mind, it took me so long. Mind you, these experiences happened when I was 12, 11, 10. And when I'm like 20 something, I still have that mindset of that child. So do you realize how important it is to create safe environments for kids and try to engage good dialogue amongst them, because these things stick with you.
Yeah,
there are
absolutely.
people in their adulthood who still face the insecurities of their childhood. That's why the number one theme is inner child healing, because there's so much in there that we haven't even seen, or
Definitely. And I could totally relate to that, because all I heard growing up was doubt in whatever I believed in and the things I wanted to be and the way I got dressed, and sometimes that even came from family. And I think it took so long for me to be able to give that to myself, because just giving that to yourself in its own is like a phrase of like, what do you mean? How? First of all, how? And there's inner child work that you can do that is so incredibly powerful, and then you go, wow, this is all I needed to feel, which is safety. Is there a time where you kind of had that, is like an impactful moment where you were like, you went back and you met your inner self, your inner child?
Yeah, I think that's how Rhea was made. So it was during the time 2019, towards the end of 2019, I lost my mom's mom, who I'm very close to. And she's the kind of person that I kind of was my benchmark of what a lady is. She was strength. She was a person who achieved so many things, but still she was nurturing, still she was loving. And I love that for a lady. Like, we are strength, but we're also like soft, and we're also vulnerable. And after that, COVID hit. And COVID was a moment where I think everyone was down. And for a person like me, I used to always say my work is not what I do, it's who I am. So I was not working. I was at home. I'm like, now what do I have? Who am I? Because it really does make you think. It was such an uncertain time. And it was at that time where I was like, I need to heal. Like, because I used to wake up in the night feeling uneasy, and I was like, this is not healthy. And I'm the kind of person, if there's a problem, I have to fix it. Like, I have to do something. I can't just sit. So if you go onto my Instagram and if you see the highlights all the way at the end, I did this challenge in a way, because I have this thing, like, if I'm hurting, I'm sure someone else is, so we'll all heal together.
I love that. Yeah.
I'm healing, you're healing. So then we did this thing where I was doing yoga and I was doing like a mandala drawing, and someone said journaling. Hey, Rhea, let's do a journaling exercise. I was like, what is journaling? Why do I write? What do I write? And so I did my research. I was like, what's the right way? Like, how can I use words to optimize my life and truly heal myself? So I found this one prompt that I feel changed my life, and it's in the book. It says, what does my inner child need to hear to heal itself? I was like, what kind of question is that? I was like, okay, I'll write. I'll write. Let's see what. And when I tell you, Nyla, like, I wrote 10 pages. A person who just thought, I'll just write a sentence. And I'm not a very overly emotional person unless it's something to do with my parents or my family or like the people that I love. With myself, I'm very like, come on, you can do this. Like, be strong. I wrote 10 pages. And I was like, there is something in this journaling thing, And I was like, this is amazing. And I was like, I need to find more about it, because I had no idea how to do it. And then I did my research, and I was like, this is helping me. Again, if I'm healing, you're healing. This is helping me. I'm sure it'll help so many people. And kind of revisiting that part of me it's almost like you go and clean your closet, and then you find this old box with like junk from 20 years ago. I'm like, I didn't even know I had this. Because that's the way how life works. You can't feel every trauma that you went through your entire life. It's not possible. You will break down. So the body kind of hides it.
That's so true. And it always comes out.
It does.
And all suppressed pain and suppressed trauma comes out. You don't really have a hypothetical rug that you're putting it under. It's just a box of junk.
Exactly. And you're
and
like,
it's going to be open one day.
And it's like a big, messy jug.
Yeah.
And you're like, I have to clean this now.
Yeah. And I think I want to add to that is that's, I think, what generational trauma is when all of our inner children, your grandma, your mom, you, your daughter, her daughter, all of our inner children sit there and suffer in silence because they don't really have a way to come out and say, hey, this is what tortured me. So the way to undo generational trauma, and this is from experience, is to actually give that inner child a voice. And to give that inner child a voice is to journal. It's very simple because when you connect with her and then you start to pour your words out, you are actually giving her a voice, and she's not suffering in silence or in pain anymore. I relate to that so much. My inner child meditation was the most powerful and the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I realized why so many people start their healing journey and then stop. It's because it's not fun. It's not pretty.
Messy.
It's messy. And it's not like rainbows and butterflies and you wake up one day and you have a surge of dopamine hit and there's butterflies and birds everywhere. I'm healed. And then your, knight in shining armor jumps through the door and all that. It's actually such a long, painful process. So worth it, of course. But you have to go and sit with those parts of you that, my inner child needed love and she couldn't find love anywhere at some point in her life. So she genuinely believed that all she had to do was just be on this planet and just give. And she didn't really need to ask for anything because it's just not there. Yeah. So it's a limiting belief. Did you have any toxic beliefs about success?
You mean with the brand I was creating or before?
And in general. So like, did you ever believe that, you can't be too big, or you're, as a female entrepreneur, it's just not going to be possible? Did you have any kind of toxic beliefs related to doing well?
I think we all have that. As women, we're taught to be small. We're taught to be more understanding. We're taught to be accommodating. So I do think not only with the business, I think in everyday life as well. The minute I enter a meeting room, the woman in me makes sure that everyone is okay in the room. The woman in me makes sure that the other person is heard, even if they did just speak over me. I think that's very innate in who we are as ladies. But I think with Ray, it wasn't created with the idea I'm starting a business. It was created in complete isolation in a way where I felt like it was the sole intention was it to be of some kind of service. But then a part of me was like, okay, but we need to make it in a way where it reaches everywhere. So I guess the business part came after. Yeah. It was more so, let's create something, see if it's worth it, and then be like, okay, brand. There was a part, this just shows how unplanned everything was. I was halfway to creating the journal and like how to do it, and I spoke to my mom and I was like, I really want this to be a ray of light for people. She's like, that should be your brand name. So the brand name came after the product. So it wasn't like, oh, this is the branding, this is the thing,
So it came naturally.
It just came very naturally, and I think the reason it did well because there was no expectations from other people, because nobody expected me to do this. I didn't expect this from myself. It was just a product. It was just a product of my experience.
And I read that you actually started Ray because you were experiencing burnout.
Yeah.
So tell me, what did burnout look like for you? Because it looks different for everybody else, but I want to know, how did it look for Rhea Jacobs?
Oh, it was horrible. It was constant chasing, but not knowing where I was going. Like, for example, I would have one achievement. I would not enjoy that achievement. It would be like, okay, this is done. Now what's next? Yeah. And this is done. And what's next? And it was more about doing, no nurturing myself, no taking care of myself. I used to have horrible sleep. I used to be unhappy. Like, I'm doing everything right according to paper. Everything right. Like the campaign, the magazines, the editorials. I still remember like the kind of toxic mentality I had. There was a billboard of mine in a Dubai mall. The big Bloomingdale's, it was like a huge billboard, and I took my parents there. They were so happy, they were crying, but I was like, okay, now I need to do a cover. Can you imagine?
So much pressure.
And I'm like, baby girl, relax. Like, this is a huge thing. You know, do you realize how ungrateful you're being? I wasn't enjoying. I was not even nurturing myself. And it was just like a loop.
Yeah.
It's like a race with no end.
You didn't know the finish line.
No.
What do you think that was?
I think it was me trying to prove myself that I could do things, but also not realizing that I can't pour from an empty cup. And I think everything aligned in a certain way where God worked in a beautiful way where he's like, stop, you know, with COVID and everything. I literally had to, I think if COVID and everything else didn't happen, I would have just gone in this loop. I think I was forced to do it.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you do have self-doubt, it's actually a great thing because it kind of realigns you. So you think it's either you need to realign yourself with who you are or you need to redirect.
There's a beauty in what you just said so much, but also the acceptance of the stillness. Like being forced into being still.
Correct.
I mean, you can tell I can barely sit still in my chair.
Oh, same. Like my legs are like...
Yeah, I'm like running a marathon in my head. And I've always been that way. And what I'm so inspired by with you is you found acceptance to be still rather than be like, oh my God, when COVID's over, I'm going to start my business. And you actually took it and you embraced it and you actually were able to create something beautiful out of it, which you might not have actually been able to create if you weren't put in that position. To create a journal about being still, peaceful, reconnected, and realigned needs you to be exactly
Still.
that. Exactly.
Exactly.
And so you accepted it, and that's something I think a lot of people ask me that, and they go, how could you be ambitious and also be aligned and balanced and do your breath work and be meditating and everything, and it is a hard balance, I'm sure. So do you ever see yourself falling back into those patterns of being like, I want to overachieve, I want to run to the finish line, there's new things to do every day? How do you realign yourself?
I do, because you can't let go of who you are. Like healing is not a straight line. Like it's a constant journey. Every single day you do have to put in the work.
Yeah.
It's not like you said before, like our conversation, it's not just one day it just happens, you're like, you're healed, you know, life is great. It's a constant thing because new challenges come up, new mindsets come up. And again, this was never the plan. So then that want for this plan to also do well, because you are a high achiever at the end of the day. You do want it to do well. Like I'm not the kind of person I make it, let's see how it goes with like the product in the end.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just like, there's a part in me that goes like, take yourself back to who you were back then. Do you want to be that person again? And I think it's that fear that motivates me. It's honest, because I'm like, I do not want to be that person again.
Because you look back and you know the patterns that you were in.
I know, and I know how dangerous it was. I'm like, listen, it's time to step back. And now my mom does that for me. She's like, calm down. Okay, great. And enjoy the moment. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? It's time to chill. And now I make it a point. Anytime there's a huge achievement, I'm like, break.
Yes, gratitude.
Accept it.
And be proud.
And be still. Yeah. And not think of plan B. I mean, like the next step, sorry.
Right.
Like
that's so true.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much from you, because you know what? I tell myself that sometimes when I listen to a podcast and I'll hear the advice and I'll tell myself, Nyla, you need to stop. You need to be proud, be grateful. But it's so easy to fall back into the old patterns. And when you're saying it and what you've created, and it just reminds me, and it'll remind the viewers, is like we could easily just keep striving for more and more and more and more. And it literally is a bottomless pit. And you could end up being super successful, start every business, go for every idea and ace all of them. But in the end, what we're striving for should be happiness, and not just ticking off as many things off the to-do list and creating as many things as possible. Like hyper creativity is a totally...
It is.
Can be toxic.
It is. Like when I created the brand as well, I was like, we're in a world where our worth is measured by numbers and accolades, when the true measure of how well you're doing is the peace in your heart. So you can sit in that $1 billion mansion with all your fancy cars, but if you have no peace in your heart, you're not happy. There's no money in the world that can help you. because that's a mental thing.
Yeah.
You can't satiate peace. That needs to come with intention. That needs to come with actual action.
Amen. You know, I think when you are constantly striving as well, it seems like you're maybe in a survival mode.
Yeah.
Right? Is there a version of you that was stuck in survival mode? And if you were to talk to her right now, what would you tell her?
I think my mom already did that. But I
love your mom, by the way, already.
Oh my
I've
God.
never met her. I need her to adopt me.
She should be here, not
Yes,
me.
bring her on the podcast.
No, she was like, breathe. Like, how hard is it for you to just sit and breathe and enjoy and just be? Like, anytime you feel like you're not doing enough, just think of that girl who wanted all of this. I mean, we passed that benchmark a long time ago. Whatever else you get is a bonus. So be grateful. So I think I always kind of go back to who I was as a person, like as a child. And I always tell myself that, like, she would have been so proud of you right now. So you have no right to sit here and be like, oh, you know, it's hard being a business owner. She would be like, we have a business? You have a business?
That's so true. Right? Like, I'm so proud of you. Like the simplest things that you're already, like, they're baseline for you now. Is there a part of her that you really want to protect right now from what you're living?
I think she's strong enough now. Honestly, like, I don't think, like, I do try to keep myself safe, and I do try to keep my mental space in a way where I don't overindulge into things. Like we said, like, you don't have to overprove anything. But I always, no matter what I do in life, I promise myself I never lose the child in me. And I think as adults, we're almost forced to be mature, forced to act a certain way, but that child in you still wants to come out.
Yes.
The child in you is your creativity, is your curiosity, is your pure kind of love. So I think she's constantly with me, and I don't think I need to keep her safe anymore because I'm strong enough now.
Amazing. And for the people who are listening, this is exactly what it looks like to heal your inner child, is to know that she's good and that she doesn't need you anymore, but she's there.
She's there.
Yeah.
And she always has to be there in a way for you to be your best, you know?
And you highlighted on it's okay to to still be a child and have a child. You know, I got a advice in therapy, and my therapist basically reminded me that we forget the art of play.
Yeah.
And fun. And she actually asked me, she said to me, when was the last time you had fun? And I was like, well, I really like making podcasts. She's like, nope, that's work.
No, fun.
Well, I really like to read. What do you read? Self-help books. And I take notes and I highlight all the things. And she's like, nope, that's still not fun. And I could not answer her. And I felt really sad because when I was a kid, all I did was want to play. And when I had the disconnect between me and my family, that was my escape. Fun, paint, messy, things that I could just kind of, you know, fashion out of nothing. And I used to like playing dress up, and I liked fashion, and I was obsessed with Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt.
Oh my gosh,
putting post-its of them together, and I'm like, this is the love I want. So it was like little scrapbooks, and I forgot that. I completely forgot that in just this like whirlwind of achievement. When I look at your page and I look at other people's pages, I'm drawn to yours because it's you. And I mean that by the true meaning of the word. It's so authentic, and I'm sitting in front of you and I think I can see that person on the page and I can see you here. These are the same people. Sometimes you look at people and you go, I have no idea who this person is behind the camera. I really don't. How did you protect yourself from falling into the perfection pit and trying to always do what everybody else is doing and be perfect and get, you know, try to match this aesthetic? Like, how did you protect yourself from that?
By not trying to match the aesthetic. Because genuinely, I think your beauty is individuality. I think there was something that I learned a very long time ago. I said, your beauty is not a mirror, it's a memory. Meaning when you look in the mirror, you don't want to associate your beauty or your worth with that. You want to, so when I look in the mirror, I see my mother, I see my father, I see my grandmother, I see who I was as a child. I see who I am today, and the lady that I've become. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my makeup. I love to dress up, but it's something that gives me momentary joy. It's not something that equates to my beauty. So in the morning when I wake up and there's no eyeliner, there's no foundation, there's no clothes, I still feel beautiful because of that. Because I associate beauty with a memory rather than as a mirror. And I think there's so many times where I do get it wrong. There's so many times, like if you go back to all the way down to my page, like my style was something else.
Yeah.
But
I see you evolve.
Exactly.
On your page, yeah.
And there's a reason I leave it there, because I am human. Because I dress up to feel good. I post pictures that I like. I'm not a trend person. I never have been. And I think it's great to pick up things like, oh, I love her skincare routine. Oh, I love, yes. But like to be yourself is a whole nother thing. I think at the end of the day, you want to associate with beauty like how you would the things that you tell your child. Would you tell your kid, you need to look exactly like Hailey Bieber?
No.
You need to look exactly like this person or that person. No, you need to tell your kid, you need to be you. And I think it's time we speak to ourselves that way as well. Like Hailey Bieber is beautiful because she's Hailey Bieber.
Yeah.
You're your own person. You need to be beautiful because of you. Like, what makes you different? We like her because she's different. And we don't realize that. So what we think is good, let me copy paste exactly what she's doing. But no, she's different because she's different.
Yeah. And I love that you talked about trends too. And this relates as well, not just in beauty, in sports. I felt like if I didn't attend every event, go to every single place where everybody's jumping, you know, there's always like these hot places where people go jump, they do these stunts, and I'm like, but I need to be there, and I have to be there, and I have to be there. And then it was like, in the end, like, you know, after, you know, how I learned the hard lesson is when I actually was there and I did them, and I got myself so tired flying from the States to Croatia to everything, living the dream apparently, but I wasn't feeling that way because I was just following somebody else's path. And then when I actually started posting less skydiving stuff and doing just normal skydives where I live, and that felt more true to me, that felt like I was just doing it to enjoy it with my friends and then share a story about my day and how it went there, rather than be like, look, I'm doing exactly what somebody else just did. And I totally felt so unfulfilled, even though I had done it, you know. And it's crazy, people go, well, when I do it, I'll feel better, but I promise you, you're going to say exactly later, you're going to say, I just did it 10 times and I don't feel better. What do you think about the beauty standards that we have now? What is the most spiritually harmful beauty standard that is that women are subjected to today?
I think the idea of beauty being like a static thing, meaning, and I'm sure you've seen this, and the people who are seeing this will agree. You'll have like a picture of a person who's 20, and they'll have the image here, like she's gorgeous. And then there's a picture of her when she's 50. And they'll be like, oh, she's changed so much. She looks so different. 30 years gap. 30 years gap. What do you expect? Like if we accept beauty as the seasonal, beautiful change that happens all the time and not try to freeze in time and try to be this one person we were, I think spiritually as well is great, because as spiritual beings, we're constantly evolving. We're constantly changing. Your wisdom now is not the same as the wisdom that you had 10 years ago. So how can you expect your beauty to be the same? You can't expect beauty to be static. Like, who I am now is not the person who I was at 18. Visually, mentally, spiritually.
You probably don't even want to be anyway.
Not at all.
The point is to evolve.
That girl was crazy.
And she made you who you are now. It's like that craziness played its part, right?
Yeah.
Do you really want to be 18? Like, honestly, I even think I totally agree. Like, I don't want to go back in time.
No.
It's so true. And we demonize aging. And it's like, honestly, I cannot tell you, like, I'm 34.
Yeah.
And I feel more grounded, more fulfilled. And I still have so much work to do, but I feel more grounded, more fulfilled, and less in a rat race than ever. And that just shows, like, how much. But I don't want to, I don't want my daughter to feel like exactly what you said. Is that I really want to be young again. And as soon as she turns 30, I need to look 18 and 19. And actually, you end up looking older the more that you stress about wanting to look younger, which is so ironic.
It is.
Yeah.
Like, see, do what you have to do. Take care of your skin, dress up, do what you have to do. But become a better version of who you are now, not holding on to the person that you once was.
When was a time that Rhea didn't feel beautiful, and what did she do to reclaim herself?
It's not when, it's how often. Because I think as women, we're not the same every day of the month. Like, we constantly change. You bloat, you look different. You have a pimple now, you don't have a pimple, you have amazing skin, and then someone says, oh, you have great skin, and the next day you have a pimple. That's life, you know?
Yeah.
I think it just goes back to what I said before, where you don't associate your beauty with the concept of it being a mirror, but more so with a memory, where you associate your beauty with how you feel, you associate your beauty with your ancestry. I think it helps, but like, realistically, I think honing in on that emotion makes you want to take care of yourself more, which makes you look better in a way.
Yeah.
So you're like, you know, I'm all this history, I'm my mom, I'm my grandmother, I'm my father. Yes, so I need to take care of myself more. So I think it's a very thought switching into action phase. So that just makes you want to take care of yourself more, and you look better because you're in a better place.
I want to go back to this journal. It's the best gift ever that you would have given me, I swear, because honestly, I need this more than ever. And journaling really is something. I was telling you before we started recording that I was like, what do you mean? I write all the time. I'm always on my laptop, you know, you can't stop me. But there is something about the direct connection from mind to your hand, to the pen, to the paper, that is so transformative. And so can you give me 3 life-changing prompts that are in here? Maybe if you don't want to give away too much. You just gave us one earlier that was amazing. Is that what would you say to your inner child?
Yes.
Can you give me a couple more?
There's another one that really helped me. It says, have you lost anyone? What is the one thing that you would want to tell them today?
Wow,
that is
powerful.
So powerful. Another one is a question with, how did your family deal with money? How is it different with how you react with money? Because a lot of the times your relationship with money or with achievement is how you were raised. So if you were raised in an environment where they were encouraging you to be limiting in your thought process, that's exactly how you exude. So I think the beauty of this journal is that it's not just one thing. There are different aspects that you can truly focus on in your life, regardless of age, gender, where you come from. And I think it's just a journey that you just go through.
Rhea, you just remind me that your true power lies in embracing your authentic self, and that reclaiming your identity is one of the most courageous acts a woman can make.
Thank you.
I wrote that this morning.
You
and I
did?
was like, yeah, I did. And I was like, I need to say this. And it's so true.
Thank you.
What you've done is so courageous and so beautiful.
Thank you. It's a true honor to be here. I think platforms like this are so integral as well, because you help to give people a voice. And I love that you shared your story as well. And I have so much admiration for you. And I can't wait to meet your daughter. She sounds amazing.
You have to meet her.
Thank you. It's a joy.
For being here. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week.